Imagine a quiet town called Woodstock, Vermont, nestled in the Green Mountains, where the Ottauquechee River winds through valleys of maple and pine, the air crisp with fallen leaves and the faint smoke of wood stoves. Here, in a red-clapboard farmhouse with a tin roof and a barn sagging under years of snow, Richard, Rick, Malone and Beatrice, B. Fowler lived, their 38 years of marriage a tapestry of thick wool, once tight-knit, now unraveling, until, at 60, in the golden blaze of September 2023, they unwound. Not with a blaze of accusations or a storm of tears, but with a gentle tug, like a thread pulled loose from a sweater, a moment where they sat on the porch, cider mug steaming, and felt the fabric fall apart. They'd raised 2 daughters, filled the home with the hum of rural life, and now, in the stillness, the weave was bare. He was a farrier, his hands tough from shoeing horses, shaping iron over a forge's glow. She was a quilter, her fingers nimble with a needle, stitching blankets that warmed the county. By their late 50s, their tapestry had frayed to threads, leaving only the creak of floors where voices once sang. Picture this, 2 figures stepping from a worn cloth, into a world they'd forgotten how to dream, Rick with his hammer, Bee with her patches, until, by 63, they weave new dreams in the amber light of New England's hills. Step back to 1984, and see them meeting at a harvest fair on the Woodstock Green, the air buzzing with fiddles and the sweet tang of apple butter simmering in iron pots. Rick, 22, stands by a horse trailer, his flannel shirt streaked with soot, his chestnut hair damp from a morning at the anvil, a tin of nails rattling in his pocket. B, 22 too, sits at a quilt stall, her corduroy skirt brushing the grass, her auburn hair loose under a straw hat, a stack of patchwork squares glowing in the sun. Their eyes lock, his a steady hazel, hers a warm blue, and he ambles over, boots crunching leaves, offering a shy grin. They talk, about the maples flaming red, about his love for bending iron to a horse's hoof, about her joy in piecing scraps into stories. He buys a quilt square, their hands brushing over the cotton, and asks her to share a cider as the sun dips, gilding the hills gold. She nods, her laugh a chime in the breeze, and says yes. A year later, in October 1985, they marry in a barn off Route 4, his vest stiff with leather, her dress a quilt of her own making, the air rich with hay as friends toss pumpkins. He promises to shoe her days, she vows to blanket his nights. For decades they stitch that bond tight. Here their daughters burst in like autumn gusts, Clara in 1987, a bold spark with Rick's square shoulders and a knack for climbing, then Hannah in 1989, gentler, with BA's blue eyes and a voice that hums. Rick swaps late-night forging for dawn chores, showing Clara how to hammer a nail, their shadows long in the barn as the forge spits embers. Bee threads her needle, teaches Hannah to sew, the farmhouse alive with giggles and the snip of scissors, fabric dyeing the air with lavender and rust. In 1991 they buy the clapboard, a sturdy relic with a stone chimney, a porch where frost glints, and a kitchen smelling of oats and smoke. Rick builds a forge, his anvil ringing, iron dust thick as he shoes draft horses, the hills echoing his strikes. Bee sets up her quilting nook, her blankets stacking high, stars, barns, her garden a patch of marigolds and sage braving the snow. Picture summer dusk, Clara chasing fireflies, Hannah singing, Rick grilling trout, Bee hanging quilts that flutter like flags, the river a silver thread below. Money runs lean, blizzards bury the drive, but the house glows, a cloth for their shared weave. Feel the threads loosen. By their 50s, the pattern fades. Clara leaves for Burlington in 2006, studying veterinary science, her room a trove of horseshoes and scraps, the silence seeping into the beams. Hannah follows in 2008, off to Concord for teaching, her songbooks and patches left behind. The farmhouse grows still, the barn leans heavy, the chimney cold. Rick heads out earlier, his forge glowing through dawn, his voice a grunt when he trudges home, hands smudged, long day, Bee, hooves are tough. She quilts longer, her shop in town a refuge, her chatter thinning to sighs as she sinks into a rocker, busy orders, Rick, folks want fast now. He tries, let's hike Quechee Gorge, see the leaves, or how about supper at Worthy Kitchen, but she shakes her head, Too tired, maybe next week. They eat apart. Him with a cold sausage by the forge, her with soup in the nook, the garden wild, their words lost in the wind off the hills. By 2021, he takes the attic, its cot sagging under a quilt she made, the window frosting with a view they can't climb. Since the Unwound in September 2023. Rick 60, his hands gnarled like the oak he splits, his hair graying under a wool cap. BA 62, her fingers stiff from years of seams, her blue eyes soft behind smudged glasses. He's just shot a mare, her hooves ringing on the gravel, when he steps onto the porch, sweat streaking his shirt, and finds her there, piecing a quilt, her cider warm. We're not woven anymore, he says, his voice low as the river below. She looks up, her needle still, her breath a puff in the crisp air. I know, Rick, we're just threads, aren't we? He nods, slow as a leaf falling. Yeah, B, we are. It's time to let go. They sit on the swing, the cider steaming, the hills ablaze of red beyond, and agree, 38 years is a tapestry done. No clash, no sobs, just a weave too loose to hold. They part with a clasp, her hand cool on his, a last stitch undone. Watch the dreams take shape. They sell the farmhouse, too heavy with echoes, and split the cash fare. B moves to a loft above her shop, a cozy space with a slanted roof, her quilting framed by a window dripping with frost. Rick rents a cabin near the river, a rough-hewn box with pine walls, a stool facing the water, a rack for his tools. Clara calls from Burlington, Dad, Mom, why now, what frayed? They falter, it didn't fray, honey, it just unwound, they say. Friends split, some stay with B, buying her quilts, others meet Rick for beers at Harpoon. The first year is a haze. Rick's shoes in a blur, his iron sharp but his heart slack, nights spent rocking on that stool, the river's gurgle a thread he can't grasp. B quilts in a fog, her stitches tight but her soul loose, evenings by her window, the snow a curtain over a town she can't mend. They miss the girls' steps, each other's rustle, the houses grown in a gale. See the trails weave in 2024. At 61, Rick joins a canoe club, a flare after a farmer brags about the rivers, his hands trading hammers for paddles, slicing through the Ottaquetchee's currents. He wobbles, his arms stiff from years at an anvil, but he rows on, hooked on the pull, the splash in his face, the water rippling green. The crew is hardy, retirees, a young guide, a widow named June who paddles with a steady stroke and a thermos of tea. They meet weekends, weaving past bends, the sun glinting off the waves, herons lifting from reeds. Rick buys a canoe, a cedar beauty with a scratched hull, and rows solo one dawn, the valley waking in gold as he rounds a curve. It's not swift, but it flows, a dream stitched anew. B, at 61, takes up cross-country skiing, renting skis from a shop on Main Street, her hands swapping needles for poles, gliding over Mount Tom's snow. She slips, her legs shaky from years at a frame, but she pushes on, drawn to the glide, the cold bite on her cheeks, her first trail a wobbly line in the powder. Feel them rise by 62. Rick sells his truck, buys a bike, a red Specialized with a rack, and pedals the hills to Killington, his canoe strapped tight, the wind sharp against his chest. He's not fast, riders pass, June teases, but speed's not it. The flow is, the river and new iron to shape. He starts a journal, shoes and streams, scribbling about divorce, currents, and the lift of open water, his words steady as his old nails. Farriers read it, then strangers, folks in Rutland, Stowe, a guy in Maine sang, I'm rowing too. B trades her van for a scooter, a teal Vespa with a basket, and zips the valley to Bridgewater, her skis in tow, the breeze cool on her face. She joins a painting class, brushing oils, hills, barns, her hands steady with a new hue. Clara visits Rick, sees the canoe, grins, You're floating, Dad? Hannah sees BA's canvas, hugs her, You're glowing, Mom. At 63, they weave in light. Rick cuts farrier days, leads canoe trips, rivers, tales, his voice deep, his boots wet with stories of bends. He rows to Silver Lake one fall, camps by the shore, wakes to a dawn that fires the water orange, his bike a steed on the bank. B scales back the shop, skis for joy, loops, drifts, her paintings stacking up, sold beside her quilts. She scoots to a scutney, paints the snow, the chills sharp on her tongue. They're not rich. His cabin smells of pine and oil, her loft of thread and turpentine. They're not famed. His journal has 500 readers, her art stays local. But their rake can be, bold, alive, rewoven. They meet once, by chance at a fair in 2026, him with a paddle, her with a ski pole. They smile, swap a tale, part warm, two dreams freshly spun. Divorce at 60 unwound us, they'd say now, their voices bright. It let us weave again, richer. Picture America's hollows, Woodstock's hills to every quiet bend, where couples like Rick can be unwind every day. Gray divorces aren't ends, they're looms. I'm Jordan Lane, and this is Gray Divorce Diaries. Their tale is real, raw, radiant, remade. If it threads you, subscribe. Every day, a new story, people like us, dreaming after 60. You're not alone. Let's craft your weave together.